Welcome to the Cool Stuff Share Out. Today I'm going to go over a very brief presentation. You're mainly going to be watching videos related to sound and vibration. Essentially, my kids and I, we like to go down the YouTube rabbit hole and find a lot of cool videos, and a couple of them caught my eye. One in particular was an experiment where they tried to visualize sound interrogating a laser onto a piece of mirror. So after we watch an initial video, we're going to go into the experiment video, and then after that I'll show you how I tried or attempted to replicate what the presenter did. So vibration and resonance, you know, one of my favorite engineers is Nikola Tesla, and one of his quotes is, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And he had a lot of really cool stuff that he did in related to power transfer and vibration and everything else. But these particular videos really intrigue me, and I feel like I think that everybody should see them. So let's get into them.
The film you're about to see has no characters. If you spare a little of your imagination, it is a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter.
Of course, his name is not.
Everything owes its existence solely and completely to sound.
So some of the things that they used in their presentation were the magnetic ferrofluid that I've talked about in the past, which is, you know, black ink with magnetic iron particles in it that they're manipulating with magnets or whatever. You know, they used gas for the flame stuff. The water on the bass drum, that has to do with the video effect, and you'll learn a little bit more about that in the next video we watch, where the person doing the experiment basically explains how frame rate live versus frame rate with a digital camera works, you know, in conjunction, and you see different things. This video kind of just intrigued me with the sound plate, particularly all the geometric patterns that were being created through vibration. You know, those are naturally occurring geometric shapes just through sound that the, you know, particular salt particles, you know, kind of fell into, which I find very intriguing. So then this experiment came into play, and I found this even cooler.
I made a video a while back about Chladni figures, which are a way to visualize the resonance of two-dimensional objects like this square plate. And ever since then, I've been on the lookout for other ways to visualize sound through the vibrations that they make, or the vibrations that make them. So I was really happy to come across this one thanks to Brian McEnwells. He showed me this demonstration and he's allowed me to steal it for my channel. So here's the setup. I've got a Bluetooth speaker, which I've put inside this bowl, and then I've stretched a giant balloon over the top, and then I've glued a fragment of mirror to the surface. This fragment of mirror represents a sample of the kind of movement that's going on this rubber membrane when you play music in the bowl. And we can interrogate that movement with a laser. The laser reflects off the mirror and hits my wall, so any movement in the mirror will change the direction of the reflected beam. So when we play music, we see this kind of messy, chaotic pattern in the reflected beam, but if you play pure notes, you get some really interesting effects. This pure note generates a pattern that we can understand quite easily. You might imagine the membrane of the balloon kind of moving like this as the note is played, which makes sense. So the beam is going to be moving up and down on the wall, but maybe if it's got a bit of this motion as well, then you're going to see a kind of oval shape. What's interesting is as we decrease the pitch, we see some changes. The first thing to notice is as you sweep the frequency down, you get these spikes in amplitude. And I think what's happening there is we're hitting the resonating frequencies of the volume of air inside the bowl. As you get lower still, the patterns become a bit more complicated. Like you get this figure of 8, and then you get this funny pattern here. What's really cool though is if you start to layer different frequencies on top of each other. So this frequency creates this pattern, and this frequency creates this pattern. But what about if we combine the two? And then what if we add this third frequency? So you can have loads of fun with this, create all sorts of mad shapes and patterns by combining frequencies together. Here's just a few of the patterns I found by playing with two frequencies on top of each other. I wrote some JavaScript to help me sweep through the frequencies with the kind of precision that I needed. If you're interested in that code, there's a link in the description. You'll be pleased to know I've used very few comments. This was an interesting project to film because I came up against some of the differences between the way human eyes work and the way cameras work. So trying to recreate the live experience was a challenge. Like, The way we see things is continuous, but the way a camera sees things is frame by frame. So I'm running at 25 frames per second. So every 25th of a second, you take a new frame. But you have a choice with each frame for how long to keep the shutter open for. So you could keep the shutter open just briefly and then it's closed for the rest of that 25th of a second, and you open it briefly again and then close it, open it briefly, then close it. Or you can keep it open for the entire 25th of a second or something in between. And you often adjust that to fix motion blur, or maybe you want motion blur because that's part of the human experience and you're trying to recreate that. But anyway, if you set your camera to manual, then it's gonna make those calculations for you to get the right amount of light to hit the sensor. But if you're filming something like a laser bouncing off a vibrating mirror, you better set your camera to manual, otherwise you're gonna have a bad time. So for example, filming with a really fast shutter speed, you get this kind of pattern forming. And this is nothing like the true experience of watching it live. To get as close to the live experience as possible, I set the shutter speed to be the full 25th of a second. But even then, there are differences, and they're quite enlightening actually. Take a look at this freeze frame. You can see the path that the laser took whilst the shutter was open, and you can actually see the start and the end of the journey as well. So this is where the shutter opened, the laser travels for a bit, and then this is where the shutter closed. Though actually, look a bit closer and you can see there seems to be more than one starting point and more than one finishing point. I don't really know why. I don't think it's because the laser pulses, otherwise I would have noticed it watching it live in person. It may be to do with the way the frames are stored and then reproduced. Anyway, interesting. If you have some ideas, let me know. So while something like this looks quite messy on camera because of all those loose ends, it still looks really nice in person. So having said that, here are a few more snippets that look really nice in person and on camera.
Essentially what you can see there is that, you know, those different frequencies vibrating off the mirror created these parabolas in space that were interrogatable. You could visualize these frequencies, and what was really intriguing to me is he talked about start and finish points, but as the parabola was moving in space, it almost didn't overlap, it didn't cross itself, which I found really intriguing too, especially with some of the patterns and shapes, you know, almost you know, they were like going in on themselves and moving through space. So what we did is I essentially tried to mimic what he did. And I've got it set up here, and I'm gonna just play a little snippet of music and see if I can't get it to work. It's not nearly as clean or clear as his. He obviously had a much stronger laser than I did. I'm just using our laser pointer. But in a little Bluetooth speaker that I got from home, look up on the screen. So in the upper right-hand corner there, we have my laser, and this is song called Notorious by Mala. It's kind of a beat mix. So, and although I can't change the tone or specific frequency to kind of dance the way he did, you can start to watch and notice some of the different parabolas that are occurring in space. So as you can see, the experiment did work. Not quite as clean as his, but where this is applicable, I can't really tell you other than the fact that I thought it was cool. So the fact that it's cool and you guys are willing to share it with me, I appreciate it. So thank you very much. Yeah.